Australian historical fiction fans and to all those who love the stories of early Sydney and the people and events that shaped it. We've just looked at the late colonial period. Now for the next couple of months we'll be looking at the next exciting period of 19th century Sydney, the early Victorian period, named after the monarch, of course, of the time. I'm Michael Beashall, Australian historical fiction writer. In the weeks ahead we'll drill down on the history of that period and how the gold rush in two newly split states catapulted the growth of Australia. Now at the end of those 12-week periods we'll finish up with doing another series of buildings which represented fine architectural pieces of the early Victorian period. Well, yeah, I've got to be honest, it is the building industry that fascinates me, with its clients, its contractors, its designers, architects, and its bureaucrats. But it's also the history, because specific drivers of the young economy, those drivers influenced the construction industry and infrastructure that came during this early Victorian period. So for all of us, I guess it's important to understand these external factors which impacted the built environment during that time. During the course of these videos, and there'll be about 11 or 12 of them, we'll be looking at the characters. We'll be looking at the new governor who had a Sydney maritime icon named after him. And we'll be looking at the gold rush in detail and how that really informed every aspect of the two colonies, Victoria and New South Wales. We'll explore how Sydney's and Melbourne's built environment rocked to a Richter scale 8 hit when gold was discovered in 1851. Prices soared. It was unbelievable, and essential work was left undone. The antagonist of Unbound Justice, my first book, also took advantage of the strike. But what he did, instead of swinging a pick or shoveling a shovel, this major character, no, he did something smart. He worked as a trader and he imported those goods that they needed on the goldfields. Now that's what happened on the streets of Sydney and Melbourne, and that's where the real gold and the real value of money was. We'll peek into the lives of quirky people. Yes, it was a gripping period because it again characterised the deep struggle between those who represented the Tories, the modern day Conservatives like the MacArthurs and others, and those who represented the Progressives, or in the 19th century that party was called the Whigs, and our old friend William Charles Wentworth was represented by them. Now the fight continued between these two who wanted to maintain the status quo of the elite, to control voting, government and the flow of capital, and to keep the convict and the emancipist class in its place. And those on the other hand who wanted a sort of republic in the South Seas. And we've still got a republican movement at the moment that's striving to do just that. Nothing much has changed to this day. Now there were fortunes to be made and a new colony split off. So we'll look at these people, we'll look at the industries, we'll look at the events of this period between 1851 and 1860, just a short 9-year period. And this will give you a glimpse and give you a feeling of just what society and what politics was all about in that time, and how all these influences, every one of them, came to bear on the development of our built industry and environment. So keep a watch out each week. Every week on my Facebook, YouTube, Tumblr, Pinterest and LinkedIn pages for what's to come as we travel along that time. And around about the end of December, as we mentioned before, we'll head into a series of early Victorian buildings, which will be series number 4 in the built environment of the 19th century. I hope you'll be along for the ride. So if you're interested in reading more about that time, then get a sense through my 3 published novels, the Sandstone Trilogy, and take a look at my website at michaelbeschel.com.au. So let's get cracking